Now on the APEC VIP hotline, cutting-edge training for the serious athlete, apecgo.com. Joining us right now from the Fort Worth Star-Telegram, DFWOT, the Big Mac blog. It's Mac Engel. Mac, if you had your choice after looking at that disaster yesterday with the Cowboys win over the Carolina Panthers, if you had your choice between Cam Newton and Dez Bryant, which one would you take?
Dez. I think I would rather take Dez, only because Dez doesn't affect every single play. Cam Newton obviously is touching the ball on every snap. And the quarterback now, runs a show in the NFL, unlike in a way that they had him before. And well, obviously Cam can play and he can throw the ball, and he's really, really hard to take down. His team's not good enough, and he's not quite good enough yet. But I think he's just a little bit less of a wild card than Dez, because Dez, I'll say this for Dez, he's never boring.
I wanted to pull what's left of my hair out when he had the penalty on the punt yesterday, and they had what might be decent field position, and because he can't control himself, they end up starting the drive at the 10.
Yeah, it was pretty bad, and I asked him after the game. He doesn't always talk to the media, not because he doesn't want to, just because the Cowboys would prefer it if he didn't always talk, because he doesn't always necessarily help himself.
No.
But, we talked, and I asked him, I said, you just seem to want it so bad. And he said, I do want it so bad. And I think of all the things you can criticize this guy for, whether it's a drop pass in the end zone like he had yesterday, or
again,
running the wrong route or whatever else, you cannot tell me that this guy doesn't want it. He does. This isn't like this guy's loafing it, or he's mailing it in, or he takes plays off. This guy doesn't take anything off. He just does not have a sec. It's just like he has no off switch. He has no slow down switch. Everything is just at 1,000 miles an hour, and as a result, you see him do plays like that. That one punt return where he loses his cool and he gets flagged for unnecessary roughness. The other punt return in the second half where he fields it like at the 8, and he's running around. He's got the ball holding out like he's Walter Payton, and it's just begging to get knocked out. He doesn't. He drops the ball in the end zone. It's Dez. And everybody says, go to him, go to it, go to him, and you want to, but then you do. You're like, every time you see that guy touch the ball, everybody's holding their breath.
And well, they should, too, because you just don't know what's going to happen, and 9 times out of 10, it's going to be something bad.
Pretty much.
Wow.
But when that something's good, it's a big hit. But I think, he still has not graduated or elevated himself out of the, cross your fingers phase of being reliable. And that's so much of the problem with him right now, is that he's just so unreliable. He's going to try. You just don't know if it's going to be very smart.
Jason Garrett, when he talks about the process, he reminds me of Nick Saban. Now he's coaching like Nick Saban. I'm going to run the ball, and then run the ball some more, and then punt it, and let my defense try to win the ball game. Is this just his nature, or is it just out of necessity?
Well, you mentioned Nick Saban. Jason Garrett coached with Nick Saban in Miami.
Mm-hmm.
He was on Saban's staff for a brief time, and so I don't think that's a coincidence. But if you look at statistically the overall numbers of Jason Garrett's play calling since he became the Cowboys offensive coordinator in 2007, he passes more than he runs.
Right.
Yesterday, in terms of, I did that research a couple of days ago, I guess it was last week, where I looked at his, because he said, no one wants to run the football more than I do. Well, the numbers don't say that. The number says I want to throw the football. Yesterday, with a 3rd and 9 deep in Carolina territory, and you're trying to put him away with a touchdown, and he calls a draw for Philip Tanner, says everything you need to know. He doesn't trust him. He does not trust him to make a play rather than to do something so disastrous that's going to knock him out of field goal range, or, God forbid, a turnover. Take a sack, throw a bad play, fumble. So we're just going to run a draw here, cross our fingers, maybe it'll hit. Philip Tanner will run for 10. I don't think he had run for more than 5 yards in a single carry all day. And all of a sudden, in that situation, he's going to break it for 9.5 or 10 to get a first down. He didn't do it. And in the post-game press conference, he was saying why, because immediately people asked him about that. And his response was, well, we thought we had the right situation. You see it happen all the time. And then, they make that play work, and you hit it, and you go in for the score. But then he also said that he did not want to make a play that took kicking out of the equation. Well, you can't have both. You just can't. They're not They're not compatible. So to me, even much like in the New England game last year, Brian, I don't know if you remember that, where he took the ball out of Romo's hands and said, "Here, defense, go win this." And they couldn't stop Tom Brady late. Now, most defenses can. But in this one, they could stop Tom Brady late. I think the defense is a little bit better than it was a season ago. What is not different than a season ago is that Jason Garrett does not trust his offense to be able to go make a positive play to win the game.
Well, I don't even know if it's about making a positive play. I think it's just like last week. I think that he just, you can't trust him not to make some stupid penalty and take themselves out of field goal range, or throw an interception because the receiver ran the wrong route or something like that. I don't even know if it's about not being able to make the positive play. It's just that, what are you going to do to screw this up where we just have no shot to win the game?
And in fairness to Jason, I don't know if that's the world's worst logic. Because
no,
as you've seen it time and again, he's gotten burned on it before, whether it's Romo or someone runs a wrong route or somebody gives up a sack or there's a full holding penalty or something that negates your field position and takes you out of a position to score points. You can get away with that against Carolina and win the game on the road. You can't get away with that against the Giants, whether it's in New York or in Dallas or in Arlington this week, and expect to win. And that, I think, ultimately is why the team is where it is. They are an 8-8 team. Maybe they can get lucky and ugly it up and get to 10. I don't think anybody thinks that this team, even if they get to 10 and somehow slide in, which they could, into the playoffs, thinks they're going to be in a position to do any real damage.
I mean, when you look at the next 3 games with the Giants, at the Falcons, at the Eagles, I don't know how you get to 10.
I think this is pretty much going to tell you everything you need to know. I don't see them winning in Philadelphia, so they pretty much have to win the next 2. They can beat the Giants. They've never beaten the Giants with Eli Manning in Arlington, but it's going to happen eventually. And the Falcons, if you've watched the Falcons, they've played with fire all year. They are begging to lose games the way they've played games late. But they haven't. They haven't lost yet, I don't think. I don't think they lost yet.
No.
So if you go back and you look at how they've won all these games, they've done it in just insane style, and they're undefeated when they probably shouldn't be. So the Cowboys can be competitive and keep it close. It's what do they do in those last 4 minutes? And at some point, you can rely on your defense forever. But in the NFL, the way it is right now, you've got to make plays and score points on offense. And if the head coach doesn't trust them to be able to do it, I don't know how they're going to be able to win these games. I think they can go 2-1 in this stretch. I don't expect them to.
No.
They can, I just don't expect them to.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. All right. College football, my eyes were all focused on the LSU A&M game, watching LSU play against Johnny Football. I know you were keeping a real close eye on the TCU Tech game. Tech turns out to be fairly good.
Yeah, Tech's pretty good. Tommy Tuberville's done a nice job. He knows what he's doing. I mean, he's got better players in there. It kind of went, I had some fun with the Lubbock radio station in the week because I had so much fun with the storyline of Texas Tech ducking out of playing TCU last year. And Tommy knew what he was doing. I mean, he didn't want to schedule a loss, so he got out of that game. He comes to Fort Worth this year with a better team, a more seasoned team, a more experienced team, a quarterback that he knows what he's doing, and he walks out with a win against what is pretty talented team. TCU is pretty talented. But you're playing 16 or 17 true freshmen, which is the most in the nation. You're not going to win those games. They haven't been around the block. And they might have won that game against New Mexico or San Diego State last year. But you're playing Tech, and Tech's pretty good. And it turns out that, for the first time since he's been there, I think Tommy Tuberville has made people not so mad at the administration for running off Mike Leach. And that was the only way he was going to be able to do it, was to have wins like that and to win games and to have a season like this.
And Gary Patterson's got to be frustrated beyond end right now.
Yeah, I think he is. But I also think he knew coming in that this was going to be harder than people thought. He knew coming in that he did not have depth. He knew he had Big 12 caliber players, but he knew he didn't have Big 12 caliber depth, and he doesn't. He has guys like Devontae Fields, the true freshman defensive end, is already really good now. He's only going to get better. His wide receivers are young. They're really good. They're only going to get better. But they don't have the necessary players behind these guys and experience to really make a run at this thing. And I don't know if they're going to get to 6 wins. He even said it before the Tech game that he didn't know if they would get to 6 wins. I think they will. I think they're good enough to beat Texas or West Virginia. I don't know if they're good enough to beat Kansas State. But he has a good team. They're just too young. And Tech has some experience at quality at the important positions, whether it's safety, defensive tackle, and quarterback. And he has a good running back to win games like that. I don't think you're going to win the Big 12, but that's certainly Tommy's best team since he's been there.
No question. He saved himself, I think, because it looked like he was on the ropes before the season started. Now it looks like he's going to get a nice extension, I think.
And I thought he was going to get, and I got to tell you, when they hired him, I thought, oh, bad hire. The administration went out and hired a yes man, a guy who was going to agree with him and not cause problems within house the way Mike Leach did. Because everything I had heard about Leach is that while he was winning games, he was just, acting in a way that was antagonizing to the administration, and they were tired of it. I never have gotten the impression Tommy Tuberville has ever done that, whether he's at Ole Miss, Auburn, or certainly now in Lubbock. And that's great. That's great if you're four or five people who hired him. But if you're not winning games, you're not filling up the stands, they don't care. They've done that now, and they should have maybe potentially beaten Oklahoma. They didn't. But as it stands now, he's had 2 huge wins in the bag. Probably get to 8 wins and have at least and go to a decent bowl and buy himself some more time to get more players in there, because I do think what we've seen is that he's landed some decent some pretty good talent out there.
Yeah, they looked really good the other day. I mean, explosive, very good. Hey, Mac, thanks very much for coming on today.
I did want to ask you one quick thing. One quick thing. You got to watch. You watched way more of the A&M LSU game than I did. A&M's lost 2 games at home against really, really good SEC teams.
Mm-hmm.
They've done this. They've played this script 1,000 times, whether it's in the Big 12 or the SEC. Is A&M SEC ready, or is the SEC just down and more of a victim of being overhyped by people like me?
I think the SEC West is not as strong top to bottom as it has been. LSU's offense is just absolutely dreadful. But their defense is phenomenal. Florida's defense, phenomenal. I mean, Florida beat the hell out of South Carolina over the weekend, and they barely had 150 yards of offense. It's unbelievable what they did to South Carolina. I think what you're going to see, though, is when A&M plays Alabama, Mississippi State, it could get ugly. That's just my thought.
You think they're going to get smoked?
I think they'll get crushed by Alabama. Because Alabama's got an offense to go with their defense. Mississippi State, I'm not real sure about. I want to see how Mississippi State does against Alabama. But I'll tell you, the thing about A&M, they don't have much defense, but they haven't been challenged because the offenses in the SEC West have not been real good that they've faced up to this point. Their defenses, the good defenses, A&M's going to have a real problem with. I mean, Johnny Football can put up 500 yards against Louisiana Tech. Louisiana Tech isn't LSU. It's not Florida. I mean, so the numbers look really good until they play really good defenses, and they're going to have to figure out a way to keep, when the adjustments are made, and the adjustments have been made in both those ball games, and A&M gets shut down offensively, they're going to have to figure out an answer to that. And right now, I don't think they have one.
Time to open the checkbook if you're in College Station. Go get you some football players.
Sounds like Bear Bryant. Time to ante up, boys. All right. Mac, thanks very much, man. It's good talking to you.
Likewise, Brian. Have a great week.
You too. Mac Engel from the Fort Worth Star-Telegram and DFWOT, the Big Mac blog on Bryan Houston Sports Radio Live on 99.3 Talk FM.